Me and my Baba.
Welcome back. So we had a very lovely discussion, but now we are going to have this discussion around a young child, a young poetess who is here and who wants to share what she has written, because Shahzad was very much interested in what she has written. So Shahzad, would you like to reproduce some of her thoughts?
No, so I'm going to read it out to people, so imagine, ladies and gentlemen, we did say, before heading out towards a break that, other than artificial intelligence, there are a lot of talented people, and such is an example of this amazing young baby girl, who's over here in our studios, and so it's very different. She wrote a book full of poems, and she says thoughts to papers, and it's a wonderful thought in the first place. And so I'm going to read a poem which I believe every daughter would want to write, and that is Me and My Baba.
Okay,
go so ahead. I love when he's around. When he comes the happiness. When he comes, steps away the sadness. He helps me always. He supports every decision of mine. He buys me the joys. Teaches me so well. He inspires me with his knowledge. In his love I dwell. That's why I claim I've got the best dad ever. Dads are always great. I know.
That's very true, and I think daughters have a very different sort of a bonding with their fathers, because it's very different than their mothers. But having said so, the preface of this book is very interesting. It's very eye-catching, but there are so many colors out there. So we would like to be in conversation with this young, brilliant girl, because I do feel that there's so many talent out there, and PTV World always provide voices to such sort of young voices. So we are very glad that we have been joined by Maham Faraz. Assalamu alaikum, Faham, and welcome to our show.
Walaikum assalam.
And thank you so much, Bete, for joining. It's wonderful to see you and have you over here. So imagine, right at the back, Maham says, Mama once told me that poetry is the spontaneous overflow of thoughts. Here I pledge that I will keep changing my thoughts and bringing them to paper.
Yes.
When that, okay, I think that, thoughts to paper would be a brilliant idea to be out there. And you've sold a lot of copies and you're using it for a cause.
Well, I started writing
when you were 6 years old?
No, when I was 9.
Okay.
Yeah, but I just threw them away. I thought this was just random stuff. And one day when I was 10, I wrote a poem. There's a poem in the book, Weather Change.
Okay.
So
and then?
I showed it to my mom, and she was very impressed. She was like, save them, compile them, and we'll get them published. I started compiling them and saving them. Mom bought me a diary. Then I started writing in them, and then slowly.
And then how has been the response in general? I mean, how did your peers responded to them, or your teachers responded to this thought? Because you're very young, and alhamdulillah, in such a young age, she's able to reproduce such an amazing book, and we believe that she's also designed the cover herself. So it's very interesting, it's very engaging, very colorful, unlike usually the literature books that are usually in black and whites, right? Ji Maham.
Teachers didn't support me in the poetry, but they did help me in the grammatical
mistakes,
grammatical corrections and spelling corrections.
All of that. I think that's what teachers are there for, but I think one should never stop writing.
They do not discuss outside the book.
Exactly.
Basically.
Wonderful. Which is why, I'm going to move on to weather change, because weather change actually changed your entire life. Now you're a poetess, you're out there, you're publishing your books as well. So, for all our viewers who are out there, this windy weather, breezy weather, birds singing all together. People walking, cars racing, this is what I'm seeing and enjoying. Sun is rising, has been shining, the moon is drowning, clouds appearing. This is the weather change, it is the weather change, this is the nature change. I see those mountain ranges, the houses arranged, the sky is orange, I see the evenings coming, neat is cooling, night is arriving. The moon is shining, breeze is chilling, hey, they are so cooling. This is the weather change, it is the weather change, this is the nature change. Stars are shining, are so brightening, the view's awesome, see the moon blossom, grasses waving, dewdrops dripping, weather's soothing. This is the weather change, it is the weather change, this is the nature change.
And this is very suited to the weather, which is literally in Islamabad is very springy and very cold, and it's very pleasant to be out there, especially nowadays because it's raining. So Maham, what was your thought? Were you writing it specifically for the Islamabad, because we can see that there is entire scenery, the mountains and whatnot?
I did not write it particularly for Islamabad. I was just standing on the terrace, and I was looking outside, and then those thoughts suddenly came to my mind, and then I thought not to waste them and take them to paper. and then I wrote them down. Then
So how often do you write the poetry? I mean, did you ever face that writer's block when nothing is coming to your mind and you keep trying to that, but I mean, you are totally blank? Did you ever face that writer's block?
yes,
You did?
like poetry is like it comes.
Spontaneously, right?
Yeah, it you cannot write it consciously. Like
Right,
it
yes.
comes
Yeah.
itself,
Yes.
like a revelation.
Exactly, and a lot of people actually say that as well, that we're the only ones who write, but because it just arises naturally,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
one day
Yes.
you might feel that there's
feel
something
like
which I
writing.
need to write, and all of a sudden you start to write,
Yes.
and once you've written a few couplets, you keep on writing and writing and writing,
Yeah.
and this has happened to me quite a lot of times
Oh,
because
wonderful.
I write my own rap lyrics as well. But for somebody as young as you, how do you envision your future? Do you see that you will be writing poems, poetry, or scripts, or film scripts, or do you want to progress, or you want to stick to this?
I am hoping to publish more, and the second book is also on the way, and I've also created a channel.
Yeah, wonderful. On
and-
YouTube?
Yeah,
And what's the name of your channel?
it's Sweet Berries.
Sweet Bellies.
Berries.
Berries.
Sweet berries. Wow. I because every time I think of my belly, it's protruding out these days as well. But while we're at it, you're using all the money which you're going to make from your books for a cause. Can you tell us about it a little?
The money,
Yes.
yeah, it is for like I'm donating the 100% of this book for redesigning education.
Wow. And how do you plan on doing that?
I'll be just giving it to the
So, for example, the way you're saying it is that you want to redesign it. So you're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
happy with the way we've studied, right?
no.
First,
not
let's
at all.
establish that. Going into a school,
Yes.
sitting in a classroom for 8 long hours, teachers not allowing you to go to the park and do whatever you want to do. So how do you want to redesign it? Do you want to redesign it in a way where we're playing and learning?
Yeah.
And how do you plan on doing that?
Like just the government should also
Participate in it?
it,
Okay.
and I think what the changes that should be made are like children are mostly in the schools, they are mostly just sitting
and
in a
listening, yeah.
classroom.
They
just
do not even have playgrounds these days.
yeah, they don't even have playgrounds.
It's like getting out of one house, getting into another one.
Yeah, and it's
So do you play as well yourself? Do you do extracurricular activities? Do you play football, cricket, anything?
there's nothing as such in our school.
Why?
It's
Why?
I think
I
you
don't
certainly
know,
and you certainly want to change that way of
Yeah.
learning. Why don't you change your school?
it's not the solution.
It's not a solution. Okay, so this I think it's a very bold statement
Yes.
to be given away by a child who's actually only 10, 12 years old, and that's something which I would want to capitalize on as well as of now. And that is, so imagine that she's in a system where she doesn't like it at all, Hajra.
Yes, yes.
And she's saying that
Yes.
changing my school is not the solution. I want to bring about the change
Yes.
where I'm studying as of now. And how do you plan on doing that? So teachers, I'm very sorry, I'm not going to ask you the name of the school. Won't look nice on television.
Yes.
It's like degrading an
Obviously.
educational institution. Would never do that. Would never allow that to happen as well. But how do you want to change that? Do you talk to your teachers or to your principal that we want more avenues to express ourselves?
I plan on discussing it with my principal.
Okay, and then so you haven't discussed it as
So
of
what
now.
are the talking
No.
points, which you plan on changing?
Yeah, the points are that there should be extracurricular
Yes.
activities,
Yes.
and the teaching methods should be upgraded.
Yes.
It's the 21st century, and the things have changed, like ChatGPT.
Yeah. Have you ever used ChatGPT to write a poem?
No, I haven't.
Right? Why?
Because I started writing before ChatGPT, and
Do you
Yeah.
plan on using it in the future? Maybe when you're facing the writer's block?
no, not as
No,
much.
that's not authentic
Obviously.
poem writing then.
Obviously. But I think that's great that the young kids or young voices, they are actually aware of their surroundings, and they're actually aware that what is wrong with the education system. And obviously, our state has been trying to reform it. There have been efforts going on for quite some time. And we also need to listen to these young voices, because they also have some vision in their mind.
True.
Where they believe that there's something going wrong and this can be corrected by this thing. So we should not just dismiss dismiss it that they are young kids or they do not have that level of maturity. Because I think by having this conversation with this young kid, with this young poetess, I can feel that, you know, she knows that something is wrong and how to correct that. She also has that vision.
Exactly. And Haja, very quickly towards the end, you know, Maham, there's only one thing. Obviously, you know, we would pray for you. You know, PT World over here at World This Morning, this is a platform. Whenever you have another book, new poems, you know, we would certainly want you to be here. And very quickly, what I felt is that, you know, I think that you can express better in Urdu as well. So why don't you tell our audiences out there in 46 different countries in Urdu, how do you want to change the education sector or the education system over here in Pakistan? Urdu में बताएं बेशक.
ठीक है, मुझे ऐसे लगता है कि जो हमारा एजुकेशन सिस्टम है उसमें काफ़ी सारे फ्लॉज हैं. जैसे हमारे पास कोई लाइक नो स्पोर्ट्स, कोई स्पोर्ट्स नहीं है. और जो हमारे टीचिंग मेथड्स हैं, लाइक इट्स द बोर्ड एंड द मार्कर, इट्स जस्ट दैट. तो उसको भी चेंज करना चाहिए. लाइक इट शुड बी एक्टिविटी बेस्ड. लाइक जैसे ग्रुप हमारे स्कूल्स में ग्रुपिंग नहीं है. लाइक बच्चे अलग अलग रहते हैं. लाइक देयर आर सम स्क्वाड, देयर इज अनदर डुओ, देयर इज अनदर ट्रियो. इट शुडंट बी लाइक दैट.
तो they should play together. Everybody should be a team.
Everybody should be a team. For example, there is a topic, okay, and teacher says to group. Like for example, there are 10 students. Teacher makes a group of 2. They both read different pages and they explain it in groups. And that, I guess that's a way better idea.
And it is, and I'll tell you why. Because, you know, I've studied in a university where I was so lucky to have such teachers who were actually, you know, studying while, you know, they were in their universities as well, and that too they went to the best universities all over the globe as well. And there's one thing which they taught us, and that was that this is something which actually kind of develops your ability to work with other people, to be in a team, to be more disciplined. But thank you very much, Maham, for joining us. It was wonderful to have you over here, and please continue to write some more books. Thank you very much for this lovely gift, which I'm going to go and give it to my daughter as well. She's 9 years old, and she's going to love it. I've given her another poem book as well. But very quickly towards the end, Haja, there's only one thing which I'm going to mention, and that is, do you remember that, you know, when we were in school and colleges, and the teachers would only want us that the answer needs to be correct.
That's
so
true.
Imagine even if it was a mathematics exam.
And it should be memorized, right?
Yeah. So it should be memorized that, okay, you know, this is the step and, you know, this will be the answer. So, you know, for a student like me, you know, who was a little weaker in maths, you know, while I was growing up, so I would remember the answer, but not the process, and even then get full marks.
So imagine that means that you have a very good memory, right?
Imagine in university, I met my teacher, and I still value you know, his contributions. That is that. So imagine that he used to give us a question, for example, in a paper. He would allow us to take calculators, take our books and whatnot. And, you know, once we take out the answer, the next question was, what does the answer mean? And that was going on to another level, that, you know, okay, where am I going to use this, you know, figure, which I just deduced in a math solution. And that was the day when I started, when I started to think that, hey, you know what? This is miraculous. And ladies and gentlemen, whatever the outcome is, you should always be ready or prepared to know, or to you know, kind of give away that what are you going to do with that point of information which you just got out of a solution or a math exam.
And I think there is this general drive to move away from the teacher-centric pedagogy, because like this kid mentioned that teacher is the center of the classroom. That shouldn't be the case, right? Students should also play the role, and we should need to move away from that model of the rote learning and memorization, and we need to value the creativity, because you will see that when they are students, when they are young kids, they're very creative, but as they progress, as they move forward, that creativity is snubbed by the education system, so that needs to be corrected. So with that, we will say thank you to our guests. Thank you so much for coming here, and we will wrap up our segment. So until next time, it's a goodbye. Allah Hafiz.
Good morning.
So yeah, that was me, and you guys must be thinking that I did a fish reveal very too soon, but I guess it had to be done. So thank you guys for your support, and meet you in the next video. Plus, you guys might be wondering that I'm not posting nowadays. Well, that's because I'm working on a GCMV, and I hope it'll turn out good. Till then, take care of yourself. Goodbye.